Kṛṣṇa. So we will resume and continue from the 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled as the passing away of the great Bhīma. All of you, please tune on your videos. And Ganesh Prabhu, there is a board, now it is stopped, but there is some screen which is coming from your side, which is showing some graphs and all. I think you are in your lab.
Yes, Prabhuji, I stopped it, Prabhuji. Yes.
Okay. So we see how all the Pāṇḍavas, led by Lord Kṛṣṇa, they have approached the grand Tsar Bhīma, who is on the verge of leaving his body. And before he leaves, he will give the most important words of wisdom to encourage, to uplift, and pacify the Pāṇḍavas. So far we have discussed first 14 verses, and in the 12th verse, Bhīma was saying that you all are great souls. The Pāṇḍavas, they were always very righteous. They were always very religious. They were always following the path of dharma very strictly. And they were also always under the guidance and protection of the Brahmanas and the Supreme Lord. Yet, they had to face so much tribulation, so much sufferings. So we'll see further what Bhīma speaks and how he pacifies the Pāṇḍavas. Verse number 15. Yatra dharma-suto rājā gadā-pāṇir vṛkodaraḥ kṛṣṇo astrī gāṇḍivaṁ cāpam suhṛt kṛṣṇas tato vipat. So previously Bhīma was explaining how the Pāṇḍavas were very, very virtuous, very righteous, very religious. And now he is explaining how each and every one of them had extraordinary ability. They were not ordinary human beings. They were specially endowed with very special, extraordinary power. And what was the power he is explaining here? What was the empowerment with each of the Pāṇḍava? He begins with Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj. He says, yatra dharma-sutaḥ. The other name of Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira, that he is Dharmarāja. See, yatra dharma-sutaḥ. He is also considered to be the son of Dharmarāja or Yamaraj. He was conceived by Kunti Devi when she called upon Dharmarāja. So he is the son. He is the son of Dharmarāja, and he is also Dharma personified. So he is dharma-suto rājā, that is Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj. He has extraordinary quality. What is the extraordinary quality? That he is always on the right side of the religion. Or rather, he propagates the religious principles. And he lived by it entire life. And the second Pāṇḍava, gadā-pāṇir vṛkodaraḥ. He is mentioning upon Gada. Who holds the Gada? The most formidable among all of them in physical power is Bhīma. He is vṛkodaraḥ. Vṛkodaraḥ means who has vrika. Vrika is an agni in his udara, in his belly. He performs Herculean tasks. And of course, he has Herculean diet. And what is the Herculean task he does? Is with his gada, with his club. What he can do? He can demolish even 10,000 elephants single-handedly. Such prowess of power he had. And what to speak of the next Pāṇḍava? Arjuna is addressed here as kṛṣṇo. He is the friend of Lord Kṛṣṇa. kṛṣṇo astrī gāṇḍivaṁ cāpam. The prowess of Arjuna in archery cannot be parallel to anyone else. And on top of that, They had suhṛt kṛṣṇas tato vipat. Suhṛt means who is well-wishing, or who is always kind. And who is that? Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And still, tataḥ vipat. And in spite of all these credits, in spite of all these merits, in spite of all these extraordinary abilities, what they had to face in life is vipat. They had to face so many reversible, unconditional situations. Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is continuing from what Vishnudev spoke in the last para. You remember in the last verse, he said that in my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time. Why he is making time the factor? Because in the case of the Pāṇḍavas, it is not karma which is the factor. It is the time, it is the kala which is the factor. So here he says that how wonderful is the influence of the inevitable times. Otherwise, how can there be reversal in the presence of King Yudhiṣṭhira, the son of demigod controlling religion? Is dharma-suto rājā. Bhīma, the great fighter with the club, and the great bowman Arjuna with his mighty weapon Gāṇḍivam. And above all, the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pāṇḍavas. So how is it possible that they were in such situations, in such extreme conditions? So how was it so? So Vishnudev is diagnosing it, and he is giving the real reason, the factor behind which the Pāṇḍavas were controlled. Because they were not controlled by the karma. It was not the influence of the karma. So as far as the material or spiritual resources were required, there were no scarcity in the case of the Pāṇḍavas. Materially, they were well equipped because the two great warriors, namely Bhīma and Arjuna, were there. So on the physical side, no one else could supersede them. Spiritually, the king himself was the symbol of religion. That is Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj. And above all, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, was personally concerned with their affairs as their well-wishers. And yet there were so many reverses on the side of the Pāṇḍavas. In spite of having all the merits, in spite of having all the privilege and the credits, they were in such extreme pitiable situation. How? Despite the power of pious acts, the power of personalities, and the power of expert management, and the power of weapon under the direct supervision of Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Pāṇḍavas suffered so many practical reversals, which can only be explained due to the influence of Kala. Kṛṣṇa says that time I am. The Shakti of Kal is the representation of Krishna. The inevitable time, and Prabhupada says that Kal is identical with the Lord himself. So Krishna declares emphatically in the Bhagavad Gita that time I am. Kalo asmi lokshaya krit pravido, the greatest destroyer of everyone and everything. And therefore, the influence of Kal indicates the inexpressible wish of the Lord himself. So this is the point which is being very nicely brought out by Bhishma Dev. So he's saying that don't think and thrown on the king.
Voice is breaking, Pradeep.
Hare Krishna. I have logged in again. Are you here?
Now we are able to hear. Earlier,
There is some, data management issue with my mobile. Yesterday, I lost all the data. I don't know why. Later, I was diagnosing because I was keeping my portable hotspot on. Somebody utilized the data. And not only the data, whatever buffer I had almost 50 GB of data. All of it was exhausted. So I have now put a, cap on it. That is more than 500 MB it is being used. So it will cut. But what to do in the material world? If you use technology, both ways it is pain. It is hardly a gain, it is a pain. So 500 MB was over, so it cut off. But at least we have resumed today. So here, the inevitable factor with the Pāṇḍavas and always with the devotees is the Kṛṣṇa factor. Or here, as very beautifully it is being brought out, it is the Kala factor, or the time factor. And of course, time is the representation of the Supreme Lord. So devotees should not get disturbed. In any case, none of us will ever suffer even a fragment to what the tribulation, the suffering the Pāṇḍavas had to. So if you become dear to Kṛṣṇa, you have to pay at least some token of cost. Now, what is the token of cost? That we have to learn to tolerate and not get agitated or disturbed. You see the case of Prahlad Maharaj. How much he had to tolerate. His own father giving him such severe sufferings and tribulations. Even if you see the life of all the acharyas, so much they had to struggle. Why? Because they were giving the best welfare for the human race. Prabhupada also quotes Lord Jesus Christ. He was trying to save them from hell, and the people themselves crucified him. So, for all of us, this is not just the pacification for Pāṇḍavas, it is the pacification for all those who are aspiring devotees. That in situations of reverses, what one has to do, one has to see the hand of Kṛṣṇa. But what Kṛṣṇa wants from me, or what he desires from me, or what should I do which will please Kṛṣṇa. Then you will see that the intensity of the situation or the reversal which is disturbing us, it will seem to become very less. The impact on our mind, where is the impact? The impact is not so much on the body. It is not that we are made to starve, but the only trouble is that what we want or what we desire in our own way, that is not taking shape. And our mind gets very, very agitated and disturbed. As we see here, the disturbance was in the heart of Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira. So that is why Brahmaji gives this prayer, very wonderful prayer. That in situations of reverses and troubles and so-called sufferings, what a devotee has to do? What is the recommendation? What Brahmaji recommends? He should not retaliate or should not take revenge. But what he has to do? He has to accept the situation and he has to thank the Lord. Who remembers the verse? There, Shiv? Very famous verse. Very, very famous verse. Prabhupada quotes it so many times. As Prabhupada Leela, Prabhupada quotes for himself also. Your hand is up, Madan Swarup Prabhu?
no, I was requesting last two sentences, no, if it can be explained further.
Which two sentences?
Of purport.
Okay. I'm clearing it. I'm coming to it. I have not completed it.
Okay, okay.
So I'm discussing about the influence of time factor. And to be able to see Kṛṣṇa's hand. So many times
Sound is gone, Prabhuji.
Here,
Still not audible.
Hare Krishna, can you hear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Prabhuji, this is Samasitam Pada Pallavam Yasho Murari. This first one.
That is, no, not that. That is Padam Padam Yad Vibdam. That he says that in this, but there is danger at every step. He prays the Brahmaji. He says, Tatte nukampa susumikshvano punjane vatpitam vipakam vidvagvapubhi vidham namaste jivete yo mukti pade sataya bha. Manoram Prabhu, this is 10, 14, and I think it is somewhere around 7 or 8. Just see. Are you hearing? It is quoted in Bhagavad Gita also. Prabhupada quotes this verse at least 2 times.
Explain.
Tatte nukampa.
It is 10, 14, 8 Prabhuji.
Quoted in 12. Yeah. So come down. Where there is anukampa, where there is extreme compassion of the Supreme Lord on the living entity. So what he has to do? He has to let go that situation where he is into. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your costless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeed and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, word, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Come now. Come to the purport, please. Can you scroll down? Manoram Prabhu?
Is it visible?
Okay, leave it. We'll go for that. Internet is not so stable. There is some trouble. Okay. So he's saying that despite the power of pious acts power of personality is the power of expert management. And the power of weapons and the direct supervision. Lord Bhīma suffered so many practical differences, which can only be explained due to the influence of Kal, inevitable time. Kal is identical with the Lord himself. Kṛṣṇa himself declares practically in Bhagavad Gita that time I am the greatest destroyer. Unspeakable wish of the Lord. There is nothing to be lamented when a matter is beyond the control of any people. So, pacifying Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj and saying frustrated by the supreme of Kṛṣṇa himself. So what do you have to do? You cannot reverse Kṛṣṇa's plan. What you have to do? You have to be on the right side of Kṛṣṇa's plan. You have to execute Kṛṣṇa's plan. Next he says, Nahi asya karhichid rajan puman veda vidipsitam yad vijanasya yukta muhyanti kaviyopihi. O king, no one can know the plan of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Nahi asya karhichid rajan puman veda vidipsitam. Vidipsitam is the plan, and Puman means anyone. So no one can know the plan of Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa. Even Vijijanasya, even by the great philosophers, those who are making a lot of inquiries, the inquisitive, the Gyasus. This is Vijagnasya, those who are very informed inquirers. Even the great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Muhyanti kaviyopi. Muhyanti yat suryaha. The first verse we read that. So everyone is bewildered. So the bewilderment of Maharaj is over his past sinful acts and the resultant suffering, etc. Completely negated by the great authority Bhīma, one of the 12 authorized persons. Bhīma wanted to, no one including such demigods as Shiva and Brahma would ascertain the real plan of the Lord. So what can we understand about it? It is useless also to inquire about. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. Today I was hearing one short clipping of Srila Prabhupada, where one reporter was asking that how many spiritualists would be there on planet Earth like you, sir. So he was directly questioning Prabhupada like this. But how many spiritual persons will be there who would be able to match your spiritual, elevation? Because Prabhupada said, not many. And then he said, but there are many more also. And then Prabhupada said, what question is this? It's a foolish question. Instead of asking how many or are there any, what is more important? And why don't you become a spiritual seeker? How will it benefit to you to know that there are 1, 2 or 10 people? Why don't you become one? Why don't you become one? Similarly, here we see what Vishnudev is saying. Why you are trying to find out what is the plan of the Lord? When the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva cannot ascertain. Even the exhaustive philosophical inquiries of sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord. Where Kṛṣṇa says this, that even the sages cannot ascertain the plan of the Lord or about the Lord. Which verse is this in Bhagavad Gita? That's the verse where Krishna declares this, that even the great sages cannot know him, or cannot know his plan, or cannot know his creation. Which verse is this? The verse in which Krishna declares this. My voice is reaching you. Jayashil Prabhu.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। नाम है विदु सुरगणा प्रभु जी।
Hare Krishna. Yes, बोलिए. Your hand. नाम है विदु सुरगणा.
Yes.
Surgana is the demigod. What is it? महर्षिया च सर्वशा. नाम है विदु सुरगणा. महर्षि च सर्वशा. नामादे देवाना. महर्षि नाम च सर्वशा. 10.2. So even no one can know. Neither the host of demigods can know, nor the sages can know, nor the jnanis or the philosophers can know. The best policy is simply to abide by the order. So this is what is needed, is to agree and then abide. So without agreeing, there will only be argument. The suffering of the Pāṇḍavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devoted in order to establish the of virtue. Bhishma was a, and he himself fought and tries. So Bhishma was a great devotee of the Lord, but he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord, because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side. So what to speak of the other? So Krishna wanted to establish this principle very clearly, that even one may have the boon Hare Krishna. Please reply. Are you receiving my voice?
Yes प्रभु जी।
I hope it will not interrupt any longer. I have changed the setting again. So in this way, Bhishmadev is convincing Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj that not to refute or not to argue, but to accept and abide by whatever is the plan. And what is the plan? The plan is to establish this principle that whoever follows the path of religion will always be victorious. And irrespective of whoever is there on the wrong side of the religion, he will always be defeated. And the plan of the Lord is to see that Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira becomes the emperor of the world. So he is telling Yudhiṣṭhira that you should not lament. Next verse 17. Tasmadidam devatantram vyavasya bharatarishvah tasya anuvihito anatha natha pahi prajaprabhu. Tasmadidam. So this is the advice or the conclusion. What is the conclusion? He's saying, oh, best among the descendants of Bharata, Bharata-rishabha. The word is Bharata-rishabha. Rishabha means that one who is the best. Among who? Amongst the Bharatas. Those who are the descendants of Maharaj, Bharat, Bharata-rishabha. I maintain, therefore, that all this is within the plan of the Lord. Accepting the inconceivable plan of the Lord, you must follow it. You are now the appointed administrative head. And my Lord, you should take care of those subjects who are now rendered helpless. So this is directly the advice and the order given by Bhīma to Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira. The popular saying is that the housewife teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. You know this verse, this very famous saying, that the housewife teaches the daughter-in-law by teaching the daughter. Matajis will have more idea about it. When there is a marriage, and when the son of the family gets married, so there is a new member joining the house. That is the daughter-in-law who comes to stay with the family. And if the mother-in-law tries to correct directly the daughter-in-law, she may feel offended. So what she does, she uses her own daughter. She chastises and corrects through her own daughter. And teaches the daughter-in-law by in turn teaching the daughter. So Prabhupada is mentioning this. The devotee does not have to learn anything new from the Lord, because the Lord teaches the sincere devotee always from within. So this is the analogy. Similarly, the Lord teaches the world by teaching the devotee. So the devotee is used as an instrument. The devotee does not have to learn anything new from the Lord, because the Lord teaches the sincere devotee always from within. Whenever, therefore, a show is made to teach the devotee, as in the case of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, it is for teaching the less intelligent man. A devotee's duty, therefore, is to ungrudgingly accept tribulation from the Lord as the benedictions. The Pāṇḍavas were advised by Bhīma to accept the responsibility of administration without hesitation. The poor subjects were without protection due to the battle of Kurukshetra, and they were awaiting the assumption of power by Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira. A pure devotee of the Lord accepts tribulation as favors from the Lord, since the Lord is absolute and there is no mundane difference between the two. Should I continue, or you want any discussion to what we have covered? I hope you are on the same wavelength to what we are discussing, that how Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira is convincing, how Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira is being convinced by Bhīma. Yes, Sonika?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you mentioned that in case of Pandavas, karma was not the factor for their sufferings, but the time was, the kala was there. Prabhuji, can you please elaborate a little bit? I was unable to hear and understand.
What is the discourse which has been given by Bhīma? This is what he is explaining. And he has explained it very beautifully. Who has caught it? How he has explained that karma is not the factor? Who will explain? what has happened in real life. How we
Are other people able to hear?
No, Prabhuji. Prabhuji is disconnected.
Disconnected. Okay.
Hare Krishna. अभी आवाज आ रहा है?
Yes,
So
Prabhuji.
how Bhishma Dev has, explained what is the reasons or the factors that he has mentioned, that it is not the karma factor in case of the Pandavas, but it is the kala or the Krishna factor. बताइए रविंद्र जी, आप बताइए. हमने डिस्कस किया ना, आज यही डिस्कस किया है. बोलिए रविंद्र प्रभु, कुछ पॉइंट्स बताइए.
प्रभु जी, हरे कृष्णा.
Little louder, Prabhuji. थोड़ा सा आवाज कम आ रहा है.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी.
हरे कृष्णा. हाँ बोलिए.
यस प्रभु जी, ये जो भी कुछ हो रहा है, जो भगवान का प्लान है, तो उसमें हमें कुछ इन्फ्लुएंस नहीं कर सकते हैं. और जैसे ब्रह्मा जी और शिव जी और देवता.
कैसे भगवान का प्लान है, कैसे स्वीकार कर लें कि भगवान का प्लान है, हमारा कर्मा नहीं है? क्या उन्होंने कुछ रीजंस बताए ना, कुछ फैक्टर्स बताए? वो क्या फैक्टर्स हैं? किस प्रमाण के बेसिस पे कह सकते हैं?
प्रभु जी, वो
प्रमाण क्या है?
पहले ये था, वो जो है धर्म जो है पालन कर रहे थे युधिष्ठिर महाराज.
हाँ.
और उससे पहले ये बताया गया था, दे आर फॉलोइंग द फुटस्टेप्स ऑफ वैष्णव एंड एक्सेप्टिंग द गाइडेंस ऑफ लॉर्ड कृष्ण.
Yes. Very good. So one who is following the path of religion, one who is under the protection of the Vaishnavas, one who is under the direct shelter of Krishna. There is no question of karma. Okay, very good. What are the other reasons? सोनिका, सुन रही हैं आप?
Yes, Prabhuji, मैं सुन रही हूँ.
और क्या रीजंस दिया? कौन बताएगा? गणेश.
प्रभुजी, प्रभुपाद purport में बता रहे थे कि जैसे भीष्म जी great fighter है, but he took wrong side, so he cannot, even though he is a good fighter, he cannot win because Krishna, he is
No,
not.
that is true. But what we are discussing is a different issue. That how Bhishma Dev was convincing Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj that it is not your karma factor. So how to understand that? Who will answer? रम्या. कुछ पॉइंट्स तो रविंद्र प्रभु ने बताया, कुछ और पॉइंट्स भी बोले, हमने डिस्कस किया.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, Srila Prabhupada text verse number 15 के purport में लिखते हैं कि Kala is identical with the Lord himself and therefore the influence of Kala indicates the influence of Supreme Lord himself.
Very good. But और उससे पहले क्या बताया उन्होंने?
वो जो भी करते थे भगवान के निर्देश अनुसार करते थे पानी.
नहीं, और एग्जांपल्स दिए ना, रीजंस दिए, बहुत वैलिड रीजंस बताए. मनोराम प्रभु.
Prabhuji, in 14th purport also, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned about that even the most pious person also, they had to go through sufferings, conditioned life.
That was the plan of Krishna. That every pious person who is suffering is plan of Krishna.
No, it was the reason that he told why they should not feel sorry for that.
बता तो रहे हैं 15th verse में क्या है? What is the verse saying? यत्र धर्मा-सुतो rājā gadā-pāṇir vṛkodaraḥ kṛṣṇo astrī gāṇḍivaṁ cāpam suhṛt kṛṣṇas tato vipat. That from all sides you are protected. That Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira is Dharmarāja personified himself. So where there is dharma, how can there be suffering? Then there is Bhīma, Arjuna, and on top of that, Kṛṣṇa himself is there as direct well-wishing friend. So how can there be vipat? Tato vipat, how can there be vipatti? So he is giving the final conclusion in the 16th verse. That it is the plan of the Lord Shri Krishna and no one can do it. And then he says that even of the greatest thinkers and philosophers, they are bewildered. So these are the reasons. Sonika?
Yes, Prabhuji. Clear hai, Prabhuji.
So
Thank you so much.
It's first convincing that what has happened, you are not, it is not your plan, Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj, that you could be the king. Or you and the Pāṇḍavas decided that you will fight the Kauravas and win and get the kingdom. No. This is the plan of the Supreme Lord. And what you have to do? You have to abide by it. You just have to accept it and abide by it. That's all. Nothing else. No refutation, no argument. Only acceptance. I'll take at least 1 or 2 verses more, because we are not getting opportunities every day. Like before. Ishavay Bhagavan Sakshat Adyo Narayana Pumar Mohayan Mayaya Lokan Gudhascharantri Vishnusu. So then he's saying, this Sri Krishna is none other than the inconceivable original personality of Godhead. So he's now declaring, he is the first Narayana. Adyo Narayana. Eshava Bhagavan Sakshat. This person who is right in front of us, this Sri Krishna is none other than the inconceivable original personality of Godhead. See the verse. Adyo Narayana Puman. He is the first Narayan, the supreme enjoyer. But by bewildering us with his self-created energy, he is moving among the descendants of King Vishnu, just like one of us. So now, Vishnudev can clearly see and speak. The Vedic system of acquiring knowledge is the deductive process. Avarohan. The Vedic knowledge is received perfectly by disciplic succession from authorities. Such knowledge is never dogmatic. as ill-conceived by the less intelligent persons. The mother is the authority to verify the identity of the father. She is the authority for such confidential knowledge. Therefore, the authority is not dogmatic. In the Bhagavad Gita, this truth is confirmed in the 4th chapter, 4.2. And the perfect way, and the perfect system of learning is to receive it from the authority. The very same system is accepted universally as truth. But only the false arguer speaks against it. For example, the modern spacecraft fly in the sky. And when scientists say that they travel to the other side of the moon, men believe these stories badly because they have accepted the modern scientists as authorities. The authorities speak and the people in general believe them. But in the case of Vedic truths, they have been taught not to believe. Even if they accept them, they give a different interpretation. Each and every man wants to want the direct perception of Vedic knowledge. Otherwise, he foolishly refuses to accept. This means that the misguided man can believe one authority, the scientist, but will reject the authority of the Vedas. The result is that people have degenerated. Here is an authority speaking about Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, the original personality of Godhead, and the first Narayana. Even such an impersonalist as Acharya Shankara said in the beginning of his commentation on the Bhagavad Gita that Narayana, the personality of Godhead, is beyond the material creation. The universe is one of the material creations, but Narayana is transcendental to such material paraphernalia. Bhīma is one of the 12 Mahajans who knows the principles of transcendental knowledge. His confirmation of Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa being the original personality of Godhead is also corroborated by the impersonalist Shankara. All other acharyas have also confirmed this statement, and thus there is no chance of not accepting Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa as the original personality of Godhead. Bhīma says that he is the first Narayana. This is also confirmed by Brahmaji in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.14. Kṛṣṇa is the first Narayana in the spiritual world Vaikuntha, where there are unlimited numbers of Narayana, who are all the same personality of Godhead and are considered to be the plenary expansions of the original personality of Godhead. Sri Kṛṣṇa, the first form of Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, first expands himself in the form of Baldev or Balram. And Baldev expands in so many other forms, such as Sankarsana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Vasudev, Narayan, Purusha, Rama, and Narsimha. All these expansions are one and the same Vishnu Tattva. And Sri Kṛṣṇa is the original source of all the planetary expansions. He is therefore the direct personality of Godhead, and he is the creator of this material world. And he is the predominating deity known as Narayana in all the Vaikuntha planets. Therefore, his movement among the human beings is another sort of bewilderment. The Lord, therefore, says in the Bhagavad Gita that only foolish person consider him to be one of the human beings without knowing the intricacies of his movements. The bewilderment regarding Sri Kṛṣṇa is due to the action of his twofold internal and external energies, whereupon the third one, called the marginal energy, and thus they are sometimes bewildered by the internal energy, sometimes by the external. By internal energetic bewilderment, Sri Kṛṣṇa expands himself into unlimited numbers of Narayans and exchanges or accepts transcendental loving service from the living entities in the transcendental world. And by external energetic expansion, he incarnates himself in the material world among the men, animals, or demigods to re-establish his forgotten relations with the living entities in different species of life. Great authorities like Bhīma, however, escape the bewilderment by the mercy of the Lord. I'll stop here. It is already past time. So here we see how Bhishma Dev is pacifying Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira. Okay, I'll stop here. Is there any question or discussion? Please ask. None, then we close. And we try to continue tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow is a session on spiritual scientists. Okay, you give the invitation. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And Krishna willing, I'll be coming tomorrow. I shall be coming. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.